Ever heard that saying, hope for the best, but prepare for the worst? Well, that's what we're diving into today. How to protect what you've worked so hard for.
Exactly.
And to help us unpack this whole thing, we're taking a look at this podcast episode. It's called Protecting Your Assets, Why Insurance is a Must. Catchy, right?
Definitely grabs your attention.
So no jargon today. We're just distilling the good stuff, the stuff that you can actually use. Ready to get into it?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay, so picture this. Life's going great. Everything's smooth sailing. And then, bam, something unexpected pops up. Could be anything. Sudden illness, a fender bender, you name it. Life's full of surprises.
It sure is.
And that's where insurance comes in. I know. Not the most thrilling topic, but it's your safety net, right?
It's like that safety net you hope you never need, but you're so glad you have it when you do.
Exactly. And what's interesting is that a lot of people, they have this narrow view of what assets actually are. They think, oh, I don't own a yacht. I'm not rolling in it.
Right. It's not just about the big ticket items, is it?
Exactly. But this episode, it highlights something so crucial. Your ability to earn a living. That's a huge GE asset, maybe the most valuable one.
Absolutely. It's about protecting your potential, your future earning power.
It's like you're not just protecting your stuff, you're protecting your future. It makes you think, right?
It really does. And the episode drives this point home with a really powerful example. Imagine you're suddenly unable to work. How would that impact your life, your family, everything?
Exactly. It's like everything revolves around that ability to earn an income.
Exactly. And that's where disability insurance comes in. It's there to protect that income stream if, for whatever reason, you're unable to work.
It's like having a backup plan for your backup plan. You're essentially replacing that lost income, giving yourself and your family that financial stability during a potentially really tough time.
Exactly. And that peace of mind, knowing that you're protected, it's priceless.
Okay, so we've established insurance is important, but where do you even begin, right? There are so many different types. This episode does a great job of breaking them down. So let's start with the basics, the must-haves. What do you think?
Sounds good to me. Let's dive in.
All right, so first up, homeowners or renters insurance. That's kind of a no-brainer for most people, right?
Yeah, it's pretty fundamental. Whether you own your place or you're renting, it's there to protect your physical dwelling and all the stuff you have inside.
Exactly. Furniture, electronics, clothes, you name it. It can all be protected.
Yeah.
And it's not just about things getting stolen either.
Right. Think about fires, natural disasters, even burst pipes.
Oh man, don't even get me started on water damage. That can be a nightmare.
It can be a real mess and expensive to fix.
Exactly. And this is where that liability coverage comes in. Like, say someone trips and falls in your apartment or on your property and decides to sue. You're covered.
It's about having that peace of mind, knowing you're protected if the unexpected happens.
Exactly. You don't want to be stuck footing a massive legal bill on top of everything else. So homeowners or renters insurance, that's a must. Next up, auto insurance. Another biggie, and usually required by law anyway. But it's about more than just following the rules, right?
Of course. It's about protecting one of your most valuable assets, your car. And not just your car, but also your financial well-being if you're in an accident.
Exactly. And let's face it, cars are not cheap these days. Repairs, medical bills if you're in an accident, it all adds up quickly.
It does. And speaking of valuable assets, let's not forget about our health, arguably the most important one.
Absolutely. Your health, I is your wealth, as they say, and health insurance. It's there to help you manage those potential costs that, let's be honest, can be incredibly high.
They can be astronomical, regular checkups, emergencies, surgeries, medications.
And don't forget about those unexpected long-term illnesses. Those can be especially financially draining.
Absolutely. It's not something we like to think about, but it's important to be prepared.
Exactly. And this is where it gets really interesting because remember how we talk about your ability to earn an income as an asset? Well, that's where disability insurance comes in.
Right. It's often overlooked, but it's crucial, especially if you're the primary breadwinner in your family. Imagine the financial strain if you're suddenly unable to work due to an illness or injury.
Exactly. It's like having a safety net for your income.
Right. So if you're unable to work, disability insurance can help replace a portion of your income, ensuring you can still cover those essential expenses. Mortgage payments, bills, putting food on the table.
It's about maintaining that financial stability during what could be a really challenging time.
Exactly. And the best part is you can customize the coverage to fit your specific needs and budget.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing.
Not at all.
Yeah.
You can work with an insurance professional to determine the right level of coverage for you, how long you'd need those benefits, and even what types of disabilities are covered.
So it's tailored to your specific situation. That's awesome. And this episode, it goes even further, talking about things like life insurance. Yeah. Morbid but important. And liability insurance, which, let's be real, most people probably don't think about until they need it.
It's true. And sometimes it's not until it's too late that people realize they should have considered it earlier.
Exactly. Oh, and they also mentioned this other type of insurance, umbrella insurance.
Yes, umbrella insurance. Think of it as an extra layer of protection that goes above and beyond your other insurance policies.
Like a safety net for your safety net.
Exactly. So let's say you have a really large claim that exceeds your auto or home insurance limits.
So like a major car accident or someone gets seriously injured on your property.
Exactly. Umbrella insurance can help cover those costs that go beyond your other policy limits.
So it's like an extra layer of peace of mind.
Precisely.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of different types of insurance here. Homeowners, renters, auto, health, disability, life, liability, and even umbrella insurance. It can feel like a lot, right?
It can be overwhelming, for sure.
Like, where do you even begin to figure out what you need?
That's a great question, and that's what we'll unpack in the next part of our deep dive. It can feel like you're drowning in insurance jargon sometimes. But that's why I think this episode is so helpful. It really stresses that there's no one-size-fits-all solution, you know?
Like you wouldn't wear a swimsuit to go skiing.
Right, exactly.
You need the right gear for the situation.
Yeah.
And your insurance, it's got to fit your life, your needs.
Exactly. And those needs, they change, right? You buy a house, your family grows, maybe you get that big promotion, suddenly you're making more. All of that impacts your risk, you know?
So it's like regular checkups aren't just for your health, they're for your insurance too. Got to make sure everything's still up to date.
Exactly. And the source, they actually have some great tips on making sure you have the right coverage. First things first, they say, take a good look at what you own and what it's all worth.
Okay, that makes sense, I guess. I don't know how often people actually do that, though.
Well, I think a lot of us, we get our insurance policy and it goes straight into a drawer, right? Out of sight, out of mind.
Oh, totally guilty of that.
But it's so important to review it regularly. Have you bought anything valuable recently? Has the value of your home gone up?
Oh, that's a good point. Like, real estate prices have been crazy lately.
Exactly. It's like upgrading your phone. You got to upgrade your insurance game too. Keep it current.
Love that. Okay, so review your stuff, check its value. What else?
Another thing the source really emphasizes is understanding your policy limits. You know, what are you actually covered for?
Okay, for those of us who don't speak fluent insurance, break that down a bit. What does that even mean, policy limit?
Sure. So basically, your policy limit is the maximum amount of money your insurance company will pay out if you need to make a claim.
Gotcha.
And you want to make sure those limits are high enough to actually cover the cost of, replacing or repairing your assets if something bad happens.
Okay, so like if your house burns down and it's insured for way less than it would cost to rebuild, you're in trouble.
Exactly. And the episode actually gives this great example. Let's say your home is worth $500,000, but your insurance, it only covers up to $300,000. Well, if disaster strikes, you're on the hook for that $200,000 difference.
Ooh, that's a tough pill to swallow. Talk about adding insult to injury. You're already dealing with a disaster and then bam, massive bill.
Exactly. That's why understanding those policy limits is so, so important. It's about making sure you're actually covered, for what you need. And if you're not sure, just call your insurance agent. Ask. Better safe than sorry.
100%. Okay, now the episode also mentions deductibles. What's the deal with those?
So a deductible, it's the amount you pay out of pocket before your insurance actually kicks in.
Okay, so like if you have a $500 deductible on your car insurance and you get into an accident, you pay the first $500 for the repairs and then the insurance covers the rest.
You got it. And usually the higher your deductible, the lower your monthly premiums will be. So it's about finding that sweet spot, that balance between what you pay each month and what you can afford if you actually need to make a claim.
Okay, so it's a trade-off. Lower monthly payments, but potentially a bigger hit if something happens. Got it.
Exactly. And that's where it can get a little tricky for people. Because let's be real, insurance, it's not exactly the most exciting thing to think about.
I'd rather get a root canal than spend an afternoon comparing insurance policies.
Right. It can feel overwhelming. All the different policies, the jargon, the coverage options, it's a lot.
It really is. So What do you do? How do you make it less intimidating?
Well, that's where this episode really hits the nail on the head. They stress the importance of seeking professional advice.
Because, you wouldn't try to perform surgery on yourself.
Hopefully not.
You'd go to a doctor, and you wouldn't manage your own investments if you didn't know what you were doing. You'd talk to a financial advisor. So why not do the same thing with insurance?
Exactly. It's about having an expert in your corner who can help you make sense of it all. They can assess your needs, explain the different options, and find a policy that actually aligns with your life, your budget, and your risk tolerance.
It's like having a personal insurance guy, someone who speaks the language.
Exactly. And they can answer all those questions you might have, which can be so reassuring. It's about having that peace of mind, knowing you have someone looking out for you.
Absolutely. It's like taking a weight off your shoulders, knowing you've got this covered.
Exactly. Now, remember how we mentioned earlier that the source actually provides contact info for an insurance specialist?
Oh, right. They encourage listeners to reach out, ask questions if they need help.
Exactly. And we'll make sure to include that info in the show notes for you.
Perfect. Because knowledge is power, right?
Hmm?
The more informed you are, the better decisions you can make about protecting what matters most.
Absolutely. And protecting your assets, it goes beyond just the financial side of things. This episode really got me thinking about the emotional and psychological impact that unexpected events can have on people.
That's a really good point. We always think about the financial burden, but it's so much more than that. It's the emotional stress, the anxiety.
Exactly. Imagine dealing with a serious illness or house fire. On top of everything else, you're hit with this mountain of expenses, paperwork, uncertainty. It can be completely overwhelming.
Absolutely. And that's where insurance, it can provide not just financial protection, but also that sense of security and control.
Yeah.
Like knowing you have a safety net, it can make a world of difference in how you cope.
It really can. It's about having peace of mind during those tough times, knowing you're not facing it all alone. So as you're reflecting on this episode, think about how having the right insurance coverage would impact not just your finances, but also your emotional well-being if something unexpected were to happen.
It's like insurance for your peace of mind, too. It's like insurance isn't just about protecting your stuff. It's about protecting your peace of mind, knowing that you've got a plan, even when life throws those curveballs our way.
Well said. And, that's a really powerful takeaway from this deep dive. We've talked about, the importance of protecting those assets, the tangible ones and the not so tangible ones, and how insurance can really be that safety net, and not just financially, but emotionally too.
And the best part is, you don't have to be an insurance whiz to figure it all out. You can always seek advice from a professional, someone who can help you navigate all the ins and outs and find that coverage that truly, truly aligns with what you need.
Exactly. Think of them as your insurance guide. They're there to answer your questions, walk you through the process, and make sure you're protected. And remember, knowledge is power. The more you know about your options, the more confident you'll feel making those important decisions.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up our deep dive into this episode, protecting your assets, why insurance is a must, we want to leave you with this. Take a moment. Think about your own situation. What are your assets? What risks do you face in your life? And how can you create that safety net, both financial and emotional, to help you weather those storms?
It's about having those conversations, doing a little research, and then taking those proactive steps to protect yourself, your loved ones, and your future. Because at the end of the day, peace of mind, well, that's an investment worth making.
Couldn't agree more. And hey, you want to dive even deeper into this whole topic, be sure to check out the full podcast episode. We'll have that link for you in the show notes.
Until next time, remember, being prepared, it's not just about expecting the worst, but it's about giving yourself the freedom to embrace the best, knowing you've got those bases covered.